Imagine this. A customer posts a brutal but painfully accurate rant about your product on social. They tag you. A few of their friends jump in with, yeah, same here kind of thing. And then one of your competitors quietly replies, we can help, direct message us. By the time your team notices, the thread has turned into a mini focus group for someone else's brand. They walked away with the insight, the goodwill, and probably all the leads. You walked away with a screenshot in a Slack channel and a "we should listen better" comment that never turned into action. If that feels uncomfortably familiar, then listen into this podcast. This podcast episode is for every digital marketeer who thinks they've doing social listening, inverted commas, but deep down suspects they've just counting mentions.
It is that time again. Time for another Just Add Social podcast.
Great. Thanks for that welcome, Awario. Very nice. So, let's start by defining the social savvy score for this podcast. In this podcast series, we have a way to describe how advanced the topic is. We provide this number up front in the podcast description and at the start of each podcast. This enables you to have a heads up as to the depth of detail so you can decide which podcast is best for you to learn from based on your personal view and your own experience. So the scale is from 1 to 10, with 1 being for beginners all the way up to 10 for advanced. So Awario, what is the social savvy scale number for this podcast?
On the Savvy Social Scale 1 to 10, this is level 1.
Ooh, yeah, thanks, because we don't actually have that many that are at this level, but today is the day for beginners and novices because this is Social Savvy Scale level 1. So this is good for entry level understanding, basic concepts, minimal experience of social media needed to grasp the insights from this podcast. So let's get going. So the topic is social listening. So social listening is a key part of social media marketing, but maybe you're asking yourself, how do we actually make this work on a small or non-existent budget basis? You know, like as an MVP, a minimum viable product or pilot, etc., etc. I mean, that's how I started, way back in 2009. I actually had zero budget, so I actually had to use free tools. That's how I started. But the great thing is, just as I experienced later on, you can gain the funds, the budget, etc. Once you have proved there is a case for it, a business case for that expenditure, then you can gain more valuable campaign or sales insights with the bigger tools. But today we're talking about social media listening at a very basic free level or very small budget. So it's not the glossy enterprise platforms with big annual fees or licenses. Today it's about the low cost or free tools, but dangerously powerful ways to listen that most teams ignore because they look almost too simply at the results of the data they have in front of them. So here's the challenge for you. As you listen into this podcast, don't treat this as inspiration. I want you to pick at least one of these 5 tools from this podcast and really hard commit yourself to testing it. So in the next few days, not someday, not even when we have more time, but this week, look right now on your calendar. That's it. Look at your phone or your PC. give you a few seconds to do that and select a time slot. We're going to come back to this at the end, So 30 minutes somewhere we're going to find to do that. So by the end of this podcast, you'll have 5 low-cost social listening tool suggestions that you can run with, right? Plus a set of questions or tests to kind of get you going. So I'm definitely going to do that for you to give you a little bit of edge and make you look in the right direction. So if you are actually dying in an avalanche of hundreds of colourful pie charts and tables, today is the day we're going to simplify things with some very basic tools.
I know what that feels like. So what are the 5 tools?
Yeah, you wanted the 5 tools already, huh? Well, wait just a little bit.
I am eager to learn about this because I know you love this topic more than any other aspect of social media marketing.
Yeah, I really appreciate you. You're always eager to learn, and I appreciate that aspect from you, and I love it that you're my podcast engineer right there. So that's great that you also learn from me.
Okay.
So before we dive into the 5 tools, let's reset. What does good listening look like? There will be a podcast I'm going to do later, and I'm already planning it, about the tips and tricks about good listening techniques that get great results. But for now, here's just one tip before we go into the tools themselves. If your listening report could be summarized as kind of like mentions, sentiment, and top hashtags, you know the kind of thing. I've handled hundreds of these. You're at a position that many people find themselves. Those numbers are a starting point, not the finish line. They are numbers in charts, but not insights. And I think it's really important because somebody who's not skilled as an analyst or into insights like I am takes those kind of outputs and sends them to people and says, that's your report. I don't like doing that. If I'm going to present it, I like to present it so I can give the voiceover, the insights. I like to do that. And of course, I may have to show those charts, but then I'm saying, what does this mean? This is what it means. So as we go through each tool in this podcast, I want you to keep asking yourself, what would this change in the way we prioritize campaigns, content, or product decisions, or customer experience in the companies or the agencies with which you work? So I call that insights. Insights force you to consider changing something about your marketing, your campaigns, or even your crisis procedures. I even had one time when I was asking in a business context, Clive, can you find anything in the social listening data that will help us change the name of our department so it's more aligned to what people actually are saying out there? That was one of my favorite use cases from my past. However, monitoring is okay, right? But it should not be the end in itself to only monitor. So that's a key thing that I want to put there on the table before we get started. So my suggested 5 listening tools that are free or low-cost tools to get you started is now. I'm going to give you that list. It is unlikely that you will find them being used as exclusive tool of record. I love that phrase. In major enterprises, right? If I go to a big company, big corporate company, or Fortune 500, they're not going to use any of these as their main listening tool. However, that is why they're on this list, because these are my suggestions of how to get started. Do you get it, Aria? Do you get where I'm going?
Wow, Clive, I get it. Okay, all right. Let's get into the 5 low-cost tools now.
Okay, let's start with my tool recommendation number 1. It's actually called Social Searcher. So that's a nice, very simple name. And it looks a bit like Google has a search box right there. So you can enter in your search term and it lists all the results by social network. all together. So it's a really simple tool, and the reason why I really love this is because it's totally free. So I don't know how long it'll be like that, but right now it's totally free, so go try it. And the URL for it, for you to find it, is in the podcast description or a link in my accompanying blog post for this podcast. So have a look, try it. It's really simple and really easy to use. My tip for all these tools is to try and think of an interesting and thought-provoking search term. So if I had a topic called water bottle, let's say that's my product that I sell, putting in water bottle just gives you thousands of results in any of these tools, right? So to get something that you can action, to get you insights, then put something like water bottle issues or water bottle problems as a very basic one, but then you can make more complex search terms, right? So the idea is, do not just put in a very simple thing and just go, because you're going to get hundreds of results. And those things you could already kind of guess, or most of them you'll have done yourself. It's your own brand term. As I said before, we'll be doing a special blog post and accompanying podcast about those very simple to advanced techniques that give you much better output. But that's tool tip number 1. And tool tip number 2 is an alert type tool. So there's 2 alert type tools in this list of 5 tools. And the second one, which is the one I'm going to be talking about right now, is called Google Alerts. So this, you'll obviously know the company Google. Well, this particular one I've been using for years. Even when I had the top of the range tool in the company that I worked for at the time, I still had Google Alerts running because it actually supplied me with insights that I used to fuel one of my Twitter accounts at the time. It's Twitter. So as well as my own experience, 80% of everything that I wanted to talk about I got from Google Alerts, because it gave me what was trending, what was happening in that particular industry that week over the last 7 days. So I just had a particular thing in my diary every week for about an hour, where I'd go through all the alerts, the results that came to my inbox, and then did my posts on Twitter at the time based on what was breaking in the industry. So that's how you can use it. You can use it your own way. The link for it, again, is in the podcast description or in my accompanying blog posts for this. And as a reminder, I have done a 50-second video to accompany this podcast and the blog, and it's on YouTube, my YouTube channel, Clive Roach, and you'll see it there in the shorts list of videos. So it's really easy, 50 seconds of video. You'll love that. On to my next tool recommendation, tool number 3, and this one's called Mentionlytics, and they have some very nice economic starting choices for you to use. And I used one of these actually. I used Mentionlytics with a client, so this one I've actually had very good experience of. So Mentionlytics offers a comprehensive monitoring solution from reviews, the news sites, blogs, forums, and much more. So I use it also for competitive analysis. So to monitor my own brand or the brand of my client and comparing that to the competitors of my clients. So it's very good for the cost. It's actually quite feature rich. So I would have a look at this one. If you're really looking for something that's not an alert type tool, then this is certainly one for you to look at. The coverage across social media channels includes X, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Reddit, and much more. Again, the link is in the description and also in my blog post. And here is the second tool, which is an alert type. This is my recommendation number 4. And this one's called Talkwater Alerts. Now, Talkwater have been around for many years, but this alert function that they've created, I think, is a nice one for novices and beginners, or if you just want to have something that looks like Google Alerts, but is not Google Alerts, then Talkwater Alerts is for you. So with Talkwater Alerts, you can monitor your brand name, your competitors, do all of that, events, and any other topic. So it's a really nice one. The layout is really quite nice. So Talkwater Alerts, again, the link is in the description and in the original podcast as well. And final, my number 5, and I have revised this list over 6 or so years now. So I keep looking out there for the gems that are good ones to recommend to my clients. And my 5th and final one today is Awario. So Awario crawls over 13 billion web pages daily. In addition to the APIs for the social networks, it offers the best of both worlds. Very similar to Mentionlytics, a really good enterprise level set of features, plus these kind of low cost entry levels. So I think it is quite good. It again supports X, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Reddit, news, blogs, forums, and review websites, and the web in general. So this one I really liked because it really has such a nice, clear interface, but for the pricing options, I think it's a pretty fair alternative, and that's why it's listed in my top 5 for low cost entry tools, and of course the other ones, the other few that are free.
You know, I like the alert type tools.
Great, that's good insight.
I might start with that.
That's a really good insight, Ari, that you would consider trying the alerts type tools, the 2 that I mentioned out of the 5. That's really good feedback because everybody's different, but I'm glad that you feel so encouraged to try one of them out. That's great. Next, we shall have the key takeaways.
Get ready for the key takeaways section, Clive. Here you go.
Great, thank you for that introduction to the key takeaway section. So this is the part where I challenge you and give you a summary that you can take away and work on. So let's start by just summarizing. So in the past years, I've researched a huge range of topics in many social media listening tools. I've tried so many different things. And I'm convinced that at any moment of the day or night, there is at least one person somewhere in social media land talking somewhere about a topic that is key to your business. And I've proved that in little tests with people in my career. So the great summary is that social listening helps you to tap into those insights. And because it's happening 24/7, you can't listen throughout all of that. So you do need a tool to summarize that. And this is why this topic is important. So here is my closing challenge to you from this podcast. If you've never done any social listening before, try one or more of these 5 tools before this day ends. So that includes you too, Aria, with your choice of an alert type. Schedule a 30-minute block in your calendar to run it, right? So not that I'll think about it, but this is now a recurring slot in my week that I will try to keep up with the tool and use it. That's how I started. I had an hour every week running a social media community, my first one. That's how I got into social media. A colleague gave me this task and I loved it. And I loved that feeling of working with the community itself. But this type of thing is a nice gradual way of getting this into your work schedule. So half an hour, I did an hour a week, but just do that. If you're a beginner and a novice, Do that and then build it up over time. So in that slot, you're going to search or review alerts, or scan competitor keywords, or analyze what people are saying about your brand, products, or services, right? So at the end of that 30 minutes, let's say, write down one decision you'll make differently because of what you saw. Now that is the line, that is the difference between monitoring for the sake of it compared to obtaining insights by using listening as a strategic activity. That's my top love about social media marketing, is that very same fact. So what's next? After you've done that, looking even further into the future, you will eventually mature by using one or more of these 5 tools, free or very low cost, and then you want to take on a more established tool that has more functionality, sharing capacity, and other opportunities to link up with other tools on your network and do importing by APIs, etc. Then I suggest to work on at least one of 10 tasks. I've listed these 10 tasks in a blog post called 10 Things You Should Be Doing Right Now with Social Media. So that's also linked in the podcast description and in my blog post that accompanies this podcast. That way you'll be well on the way to being a strategic powerhouse of social media marketing. And that's what we all want. Great. We've come to the end of this podcast. Thanks for listening. If you want to take your marketing to the next level, just adding social can bridge the gap between your offline and online strategies, making your campaigns more interactive and impactful and more successful. Aria in the studio over there, thank you very much for keeping me on track and doing all the engineering stuff you do there with the sound. Thank you.
See you all next time. Bye.
Excellent. Thank you, Aria, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.